Well, hello everyone. My name is Zachary O'Shea, and this is Box of Teeth. Over the last month, we've gone over the Lodge Master, which is an antagonist for a horror-themed Dungeons & Dragons game, as well as just completing all of his minions yesterday. I want to talk about the method that I used to build those minions here in a moment. Alright, here's the usual quick reminder. The Lodge Master is a demon that in the mortal realm takes the form of an older, distinguished gentleman who's a real man's man, a ladies' man, and an avid hunter. He gathers lodges or like institutions of young noblemen and sons of merchant families, and behind closed doors really initiates them into a very toxic society, as well as the demonic cult that he is the head of. Then he releases them back on high society so they can cause a lot of chaos there that trickles down to the common masses and really screws everything up. The cult and their master really follow 4 horror subgenres, which are body horror, demonic horror, corruption horror, and class horror. So that in mind, we're going to go over just 3 of those minions that I've talked about recently and use the Noctis method, which is what I usually use when I'm creating monsters, which again is name, origin, comparison, traits, inform, and sew up. So let's kind of go through that right now. Let's go ahead and start with name. In this case, we have, for the first example, Trophy Wife, which brings a certain connotation to its mind. It's basically the subordinate demon that takes care of each lodge directly underneath the Lodge Master. And in that is wrapped up a lot of ideas, again, that already pop in your head when you hear that word. And that really plays into kind of that corruption, horror, toxic masculinity aspect that the Lodge Master has. And then we go to Hellbore, which is one of the cultists itself. All of the cultists are named after different animals with kind of a demonic connotation with them. Besides the Hellbore having a very pig-like appearance and traits to them, it also, because I played Old Starfleet Battles, is a type of missile that is shot out, and thus Hellbore made me go, okay, I'm also probably going to do something with cannons, because the setting used firearms, and that's really what the cult was built around, flintlocks and that sort of thing. Lastly, we have Hunting Blind, again going back now to kind of the hunting aspect of the lodge itself, and the idea of this is something that people hide in when they're hunting people. How can I make that also a play on words as an actual construct monster? Next we have Comparison, which is in the Dungeons & Dragons sense, where I take a monster and I look at the comparison to their CRs and monster types. So the Trophy Wife is a demon. I'm going to look at creatures around her challenge rating and say, okay, what sort of hit points do they have? What kind of armor class? What sort of damage resistances, immunities, and condition immunities they might have? What sort of saving bonuses, if any, kind of that skill range? Maybe typical spells or how many spells they can cast, that sort of thing. And that rolls into Hellbore. Okay, I'm going to look at a monstrosity about their challenge rating because that's what they are, but maybe also grab a few bits of demon stuff because we have demonic horror that I need to sprinkle in there, as well as look at the cults and maybe how much damage they should be doing with a firearm, or in this case, a cannon. Same thing for Hunting Blind, so I'm going to look at a construct around that area and say, okay, what sort of hit points, armor class do they have? What sort of resistances, damage resistances, and other abilities do I really need to take into account so it really fits that mold of what players will expect when it comes to monsters of that type, of that challenge rating, that you can really extrapolate this and move it to any sort of role-playing game as long as you know the system very well and kind of look at comparison of monsters. Next, I move on to traits, which are things that I really want to emphasize through abilities and attacks sometimes with a creature. With the Trophy Wife, she takes trophies, so she's got a variety of fetishes, but she also administers as kind of a incestuous den mother to the lodge that she's in charge of, so she has these fetishes she can give to other people that have kind of a random effect. For the Hellbore, it's really simple. He's got cannons in this case, and so what can that cannon do damage-wise? But likewise, I'm going to make him a siege monster because he can blow up stuff really easily. He's there to kind of do rampant destruction as needed. And the Hunting Blind, what I decided was they're also going to have a fetish sort of feel to them because of the Trophy Wife. But what if they have like a random group of gaze attacks they can do? So again, that goes back to the Trophy Wife having random abilities that they can give out. Well, this has random fetish mass where it can use things that are similar to perhaps a Beholder's Gaze attack, but are moved just enough to really fit that kind of demonic, hunting, dark forest feel that I want the Lodge Master and his minions to have. Then the last part is Inform. What do I want to inform about the world? Well, the trophy wife, a lot of that's just really in her background. There's only one per lodge. They will never realize there's more than one, and they get upset when that happens. They have this sort of antagonistic but old marriagey feel when they talk to the lodge master. But at the same time, the lodge master is the one in charge, and they will put them down consistently, even if it's just subtly with little barbs and that sort of thing. The Hellboar, unlike the rest of the cult, is omnivorous and will eat just about anything, because again, it is a pig. And the Hellboar has Iron Rain, which is something you can use every once in a while, which is a caltrop cannon shot, where it can slow people down so the rest of his lodge can attack them in melee combat and make it easier to hunt people down. That way the pig gets more food, and also making sure, and this kind of goes back to comparison a little bit, that has the same traits that the rest of the cult does, things like feral treads. They ignore difficult natural terrain in forest and plains, and killer instincts, so they're better at doing damage to creatures that are half hit points or less. With the hunting blind, it's really, what does a hunting blind do? In this case, it's a place for hunters to hide, so giving it this insidious camouflage ability that basically makes people blind to it, as well as parapet, so it's protecting the cult members that are within it if they're under attack, or just hiding altogether if they're laying in wait to attack a target. Sew up is a really simple step. It's basically going through, making sure the hit points are correct, the armor class is correct, the damage dice and the amount of damage for average is correct, DCs are all correct, that sort of thing. So again, when I put them into play, I'm not trying to quickly calculate stuff, or I might not be doing too little damage or too much damage, that sort of thing. Hopefully that gives you some really good insight into not just building one creature, but a whole host of creatures that all fit the same sort of themes that you really want to talk about, and the style that you enjoy and that you want your players to enjoy as well. Of course, the Noctis method is just what I use. Everybody has their own different method of how they put things together, but I feel it's important to really codify that if you're building monsters on a regular basis, because it becomes much easier for you and gives you kind of a checklist to go down, so you're not suddenly in the middle of a fight and go, oh yeah, the Hellboar should have had feral tread. Rats, I completely forgot about that. It just makes it a lot easier to kind of get your ducks all in a row when you're ready for that sort of stuff, if you're homebrewing. If you're just using normal monsters, hey, that's okay. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. They're there for you to easily plug into a game. But I hope you've enjoyed the Lodge this month, along with the Lodge Master. You can find them all, along with hundreds of other horror-themed creatures that are all homebrewed for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They're also all perfectly free at boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're more interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons horror role-playing game projects that I have, or the horror fiction that I write that includes grease paint right here, you can always go to www.zacharyoshay.com. I really do appreciate your time and your attention. I would love to hear any feedback that you have about the Lodge or any of the other monsters that I've covered recently, but we've been talking about the Lodge a lot. And now we're pretty much done. I still want to talk a little bit about what sort of plots and adventures you could use the Lodge Master and Lodges for, and that'll come out soon. But otherwise, I hope you have a great weekend coming up. I'm going to do my best because it's going to be nice weather outside. All right, everybody, take care.